We love to talk about toxic people until we realize that we might be the toxic one. So today on Off the Couch, we're flipping the script and asking, am I the toxic one? Is it me? Am I the problem? Today on Off the Couch. And welcome to Off the Couch with Dr. Greg, where psychology meets everyday life, or because growth doesn't happen lying down. How about that, Brian? I said the wrong tagline. This is Dr. Greg, case-on psychologist. I'm here with producer Brian Gomez joining the conversation.
Happy Tuesday, you guys.
And we also have Tony Sweet. Tony, I hope you have a pad of paper because we're going to be utilizing your skill a little bit today.
Writing?
Writing. Well, we're going to be asking questions. You don't have to write anything down. Okay, good. So today the topic or the title actually is, am I the toxic one? I'm asking for myself. We love calling out toxic people until we realize we might be the problem. Today we're flipping the script, as I said. Some say a third of people have toxic traits. It's kind of a bogus statistic. We'll talk about that. But if you're sitting between two people, let's face it, you might be the toxic one. And we're going to find out. Oh, my goodness. Can you turn that off, Brian?
Yep.
My computer, I have full sound coming out, so it's going to give me every text and thing. So let's talk about what toxic is. It's important to understand that toxic isn't a clinical diagnosis. It's not psychological. It's not in the DSM. There's no such thing as a toxic relationship diagnosis or a toxic person diagnosis. But we all kind of know what that is and what that experience is. So we're going to talk about those terms. It's usually used to describe behaviors that are consistently harmful to other people. Therefore, there's no precise percentage of the adult population that can be labeled as toxic. And in fact, all of us can exhibit toxic traits at one point or another. The prevalence of toxic behaviors in relationships and workplaces have been examined, but they're called other things. In romantic relationships, approximately half of adults have reported psychological aggression from a partner. In friendships, 84% of women and 75% of men reported toxic friendships at some point. And in the workplace, 19% of workers describe their workplace as very or somewhat toxic. These statistics highlight the prevalence of these behaviors and workplace and other dynamics, relationship dynamics. And rather than labeling individuals as toxics, these behaviors can stem from underlying issues. And that's how we usually understand this in psychology. We usually understand it from the underlying issues. But we'll do that for a second, and then we're going to backtrack into the fun term toxicity. But yeah, it's usually coming from insecurity and self-worth. It's coming from emotional instability, coming from manipulative tendencies, lack of accountability, and unresolved trauma, childhood neglect, and dysfunctional relationships. So understanding these and how they impact, it's crucial for healthier relationships and to promote healthy well-being. So I just want to say, insecurity and self-worth, a lot of people deal with that. So when you have a low self-worth, it's going to lead to many different things. Sometimes the toxicity might go in one direction where you hide yourself and you don't want to interact with people, and there might be other kinds of toxicity there, but it could be the other direction, that people have an inflated sense of self-worth, or they want to put something over on somebody else. They want control because they feel like they can't handle things when they're not in control. There could be all kinds of things. Emotional instability, if there's one skill, there's like so many great skills, but learning to stabilize and manage your emotions is probably the most important skill, one of the most important skills in psychology. That's the most successful people in the world manage their emotions. So we're going to talk about all of that. And I'm going to end the podcast with 9 tips that if you're the toxic one, what you can do to actually improve things. So, Brian, we're going to be asking, am I the toxic one? Why do you think I picked this topic?
Was it something that you did recently?
Oh my goodness. We're going to talk about me. But yes, I have been upset at myself for ways I've behaved, and we can talk about that, especially around the grieving. And I'm dealing with so just to, recap, my brother just passed, my sister passed 6 months before. And it's been a lot. And having watched my brother suffer and all that, it's a lot of emotion that hits me at a lot of the wrong times. And sometimes I have difficulty putting up with BS from people, and sometimes I'll become snappy at people.
I just don't think I would label that toxic or anything. I know it does seem like that, but you're in a different boat than most people are right now. And what you're dealing with, I feel like emotionally, is super like you can't even be upset. I know it's upsetting to you. I mean, to look
It's
back and
upsetting
be
to
like,
me. It's not the man I want to be, but I agree. It's upsetting to me.
yeah, and you have every right to, and you have every right to be snippy and short fused and all of that with what you're dealing with. That I wouldn't even call toxic. I know it sounds like it could be labeled as toxic behavior, who somebody does it all the time and that's their norm.
Right, right. Well, there is a difference, and I do realize that. And when we take the quiz, I'll probably have to kind of have two answers in mind. Do you have a pen, Brian? You should go get yourself a pen so that you can take this test, because we're going to talk about, am I the toxic one? So it's time to check yourself in the mirror and in your relationships. Tony, do you have your pen ready to go?
I do. I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to ask for the three of us, am I the toxic one? So we're going to go through this category, and we're going to see if you're a walking red flag, you're just emotionally overwhelmed, or you're unfairly self-blaming yourself to actually think that you might be the toxic one. So let's do number 1. When someone calls out your behavior, your first response is to A, defend yourself hard, they're twisting things. B, freeze up and feel immediately ashamed. Or C, ask for clarification and try to understand. I will repeat that. Is it A, defend yourself hard, they're twisting things? B, freeze up and feel immediately ashamed? Or C, ask for clarification and try to understand? Now I'm going to put both answers, like how I am now and how I usually, because I know usually I'm a little bit different. Okay, number 2. Everyone got their answer?
Got it.
Number 2. How do you deal with conflict in relationships? A, this is conflict, boys. Shut down or ghost the person. It is just too much. B, go on the offense. You argue until you win. Or C, try to work through it even if it's messy. So that's dealing with conflict. You shut down or ghost. It's too much. B, go on the offense. You argue until you win. Or C, try to work through it even if it's messy. Okay. I have dual answers. I'm straddling some lines here. Okay, number 3. When you're upset with somebody, what do you usually do? When you're upset with somebody, what do you usually do? Oh my God, I can't say two U's in a row. What do you usually do? A, give them the silent treatment until they figure it out. B, snap at them and regret it later. Or C, communicate clearly, maybe not perfectly, but you try. I think we know where I've been lately. So when you're upset with someone, do you give them silent treatment until they figure it out? Yeah, that's interesting. I hear that a lot from clients. We'll say that exact thing. Snap at them until they regret it later, or C, communicate clearly, maybe not perfectly, but you try. I'm seeing you respond, Brian, and I'm thinking some of these are are resonating. So number 4, how do you apologize in close relationships? How often? How often do you apologize in close relationships? How often? A, rarely. You're not sure what you did wrong. B, constantly, even when it's not your fault. And C, when it's warranted, you reflect, then respond. So A, rarely, you're not sure what you did wrong. B, constantly, even when it's not your fault. Or C, you do apologize when it's warranted, you reflect, then respond. And number 5, do you ever feel like someone else is the problem? Okay. Number 5, do you ever feel like someone else is the problem? A, yep, people are exhausting. B, sometimes, but maybe it's me too. And C, occasionally, but I try to own my role. So do you feel like someone else is the problem? Yep, people are exhausting. B, sometimes, maybe it's me too. And C, occasionally, but I try to own my role. Okay. So, boys and grills, we're going to look at this and start to go down this. So the quiz results, let me just say for those of you at home, quiz results, your toxicity level, if it's mostly, oh, what do you have, Brian? We're going to find out what you have before we go into the diagnosis.
Okay, so for me, it's like a B, and then 2 and 3 are A, B, and C-ish, and then 4 is C, and then 5 is A. So it's kind of like all over.
So you have a B, an A, 2 C's, 2 B's and 2 C's and an A? What?
Well, because like 2 and 3, it kind of like A, B, and C kind of applied a little bit.
Oh, all 3 of them.
Yeah, and then I have B for the first one.
2 and 3 are when someone calls out your behavior, your first response is, oh, you could defend hard, freeze up, immediately feel ashamed, or C, ask for clarification. That's interesting. Let's go down each individual one. Let's throw ourselves under the bus. So you had all 3.
Yes.
Okay, good. And Tony, what do you have for number 1?
Well, 1, 2, and 3, I kind of had A and C just because it depends who the person is. If they have no really significance to me, I don't really care. But if they have significance, I would either approach and try to work it out, and then 4 I had C, and then 5 again A, B, and C. It was hard to choose.
These are sometimes hard to choose because you think a little bit dependent on the situation. I would say we want to focus these more on friendships and relationships behaviors or workplace behaviors, as opposed to like a stranger in a grocery store. We all get irritated at strangers in a grocery store. Or Brian was telling me a story about some dude at the dog park who sounded like that he was a walking irritation. He sounded like he was asking for conflict. So, yeah, that's going to happen. Brian, what was that story?
Well, he's in jail.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah, yes.
Start with the end.
So Saturday he got there, and his dog, I think he got a new dog because we had never seen him before. And when a dog isn't fixed in the dog park, it becomes problematic all the time, but people don't seem to care. And then first it started with my dog, so I picked her up, and then his dog went after another lady's dog, and then another dog, and then we all left, and they were all cursing each other out. So I guess he went back Sunday. The next day, same situation happened with his dog attacking other dogs, and a guy got in between both of the dogs to like get it away from his dog. Apparently he thought he hit his dog, so the guy went up behind the older gentleman and like had him in a chokehold. And yeah, the cops were called and people were trying to separate them. And so I missed this one. I missed the Sunday fight. But yeah, the WeHo dog park seems to be a little dramatic.
I think I missed the jail comment
I
when
did.
you first told me the story. Did you say the word jail?
I don't know if I said he
No.
went to jail, but like, yeah, he went to jail right after.
Well, then I guess there you go.
And the other guy has to wear like a sling and everything. So, yeah.
Oh, that's bad. Was this shirtless cowboy hat guy?
No,
Oh, a
this is
different guy.
there's a different guy.
Oh, okay.
This guy that did the fighting was like cracked out or something, apparently.
Oh my. Well, people are just up in arms lately. Seems like there is something in the air. Okay, yeah. So yeah, when you run into those people, we act a little differently. So I think it's you're not going to stand and go, what's going on right now? I really want to try to understand. Instead, you're like, screw you, stranger. So we're really talking, and I probably should have said this from the beginning. This is more friendships, relationships, and workplace relationships. So this is where you really want to focus the meat, because this is when your stuff really comes out. You're not acting in self-defense. So, number one, when someone calls you out for your behavior, your first response, and you said all three.
Well, for number one, I put
Oh.
B.
Oh, B, freeze up and immediately feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Yes. Tony said A, defend himself hard, and C, asking for clarification and try to
If
understand.
it's friends and family, it would be C.
Oh, friends and family, clarification and try to understand. Good for you. And for me, for A, one, I was a C asking for clarification. This is, okay, I just want to say grief. I want to talk about it for 1 sec. Is that my mind and my mouth do not work at the same speed, number one. Number two, my head just will switch topics on the whim, so I'm having like a grief-induced ADD. And when we have any kind of emotional disorder, would be it depression, anxiety, anger, those types of things, that causes us to attention switch. It's a way we actually manage emotion. But it's kind of an interesting process to be right in the middle of it, because I think I'm already like somebody who can see a shiny object and be attracted to it. But I'm not, and typically I hold it together. But right now I'm not holding it together at all. And I will say, give it up. Give it up to the grief. I'm just like, this is what life is right now.
And nobody expects you to, have your head on right.
Nobody. Some people do, but and I try to with clients, certainly. I don't excuse myself if I do have a failing with a client.
Which is crazy because you have mentioned how, and I've seen it too, where we hold therapists, psychologists up to like a standard on a pedestal there. You're like, you don't think these people cry or like get upset or like you feel because this is your profession that you know how to manage it and you can flow through it like nothing. But in reality, you guys are all human.
Very much a human. So and I've just milked this number one for a long time. When someone calls out your behavior, your first response is to either defend yourself hard, freeze up and immediately feel ashamed, or C, ask for clarification and try to understand. Typically, I think I'm a C. Wouldn't you say that when we've had? Yeah, I'm pretty typically a C, but I will say I've had moments of the freeze up and feel ashamed. Like, not even feel ashamed, but the freeze up. Like, I don't know how to respond to this person.
For me, I just shut down. I shut down.
You feel it shut.
Quiet. I completely go in my head. I am replaying it all in my head. I don't want to speak to anybody. Like, you will feel the shift in the room when that happens to me.
I think I hold myself from defending myself because my immediate judgment with people who defend is they're guilty.
So I don't even try to argue or anything.
Yeah, I try not to be one of those people. So Tony, take note. So, number two, how do you deal with conflict in relationships? Okay, number two, A, shut down or ghost. It's too much. B, go on the offense. You argue until you win. Or C, try to work through it. Brian.
So I feel like I go in order from A, B to C. So that all applies to me in that exact order, actually. Exactly how it's listed.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so you'll get quiet, you'll shut down, then you'll come back at them, and then you'll eventually try to work through. Well, I'm at props to you for getting to see.
Yeah, because I see what bothers me. I expect them to fix it or do something specific to correct the situation. Then it usually is brought up, and I am yelling until my point is, heard. And then it's like the working through it to fix it and be like, you know what? There wasn't that big of a deal, but I'm glad we worked it out.
Glad we worked it out. Okay, how about you, Tony?
Repeat one more time.
Oh yeah. How do you deal with conflict in a relationship? A, shut down or ghost. B, go on the offense. You argue until you win. Or C, try to work through it, even if it's messy.
Yeah, a little of B and C, but mostly C. Yeah, mostly C. It just, again, it depends on how they approach me, even if it's friends or family. Um, if they approach me civilly, I'll try to work it out with them. But
Yeah, I mean, I will say that yes. How do I deal with conflict? I try to work through it, even if it's messy. It's the same as asking for clarification. I have that same instinct, but I can, if I'm really find someone insufferable, including certain family members,
amen. Me too.
I will shut them down. I'm like, no, we're not talking about that. Or I think I talked about this last week in the family drama.
Yep.
And that is a different thing. Ghosting, I don't think I ever try to ghost someone, like to never talk to them again, but I may not pick up their phone call.
What about their text messages?
I may not respond right away. I may, even if most people I do try to respond to quickly, but the unfortunate thing about my job is that sometimes I can't get to a text message for hours, many hours. So people sometimes know, if they know that, they're not going to worry too much if I don't respond right away. So that's just life. I don't feel that way toward people I don't know. It has to be someone very close who's also maybe more in the toxic camp that I'm like, "Grr." But then I become the toxic one, I suppose, when I shut down. But I'm not going to argue and I'm not going to try to work through it when you know how these conflicts go. So this is a little bit different, perhaps.
Can I share something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my friends, we had this situation where somebody we know got on our nerves. For me, I instantly was like, okay, well, I just don't want to hang out with this person ever again. Like, I'm not going to respond to text messages, group chats, whatever. I'm just, I peaced out. My friend, on the other hand, was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go at him to irritate him so he just doesn't like me and doesn't speak to me. Which I'm like, that is so toxic.
That's sadistic. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see that
Yeah.
toxic friendship situation.
Well, beware of that friend too. Okay. Number 3, when you're upset with someone, what do you usually do? When you're upset, what do you usually do? What do you do most of the time? A, give them the silent treatment until they figure it out. B, snap at them and regret it later. And C, communicate clearly, maybe not perfectly, but you try. I think we started with Brian. Let's just do Brian again. Brian.
Was that the same as the previous question?
No, this is a new question.
But the answers sound the same and the situation sounds the same. And
Didn't we do how we deal with conflict in relationships?
yeah, and what was
This
this
one?
one?
When you're upset with someone, what do you usually do?
Oh, the same repeat.
Give
A,
them
B, and C.
A, B, and C. So you give them the silent treatment until they figure it out. You then snap at them and regret it later, and then you communicate clearly. Maybe not perfectly, but you try.
Yeah, I mean, if it's somebody that I
Yes.
just don't want to like hang out in a relationship, this is what would happen. But somebody I just don't like as a friend yeah, friends, anytime I feel a certain way or uneasy or uncomfortable by somebody, I instantly step back. I am just like, I don't know, I'm at the point where I don't want to be around anybody that I feel uncomfortable or uneasy, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the world. I'm like, if I'm outside or hanging out with somebody or spending quality time out of my day and stuff with people, I'm not going to be upset or unhappy about it. I either exit stage left or I just don't go.
Good for you. What about you, Tony? Number 3, when you're upset with someone, what do you do? Silent treatment, snap, or communicate clearly?
Uh, if it really ticks me off, I will do A until
Silent
I
treatment.
until I cool down, and then I will do C.
Mm. And then communicate clearly. For me, like what I usually do, and I will say, is communicate clearly. It's not perfect. I'm certainly not a perfect communicator. But if I'm upset with someone, I'll let them know. But I may not let them know right away, and that isn't giving them the silent treatment. I'm not trying to wait for them to figure it out. Sometimes I get a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't want to talk
Yeah,
because B, which is I might snap at them.
yeah,
And I have snapped at people more than I feel comfortable with as I'm going through my process. I joke about it, but it's been upsetting to me.
And it's funny because I always want you to snap even more. I feel like sometimes you're too nice, and I'm like, oh, I get upset that you're not more upset.
Well, my people close to me do get upset. And I think part of it is they expect me to be like sane and rational. And when I'm not, they, throws the game way off. So that's just life. Okay. Did we do you, Tony? Yes, we did.
oh,
Number 4, how often do you apologize? I'm sorry, Tony. How often do you apologize in close relationships? A, rarely. You're not sure what you did wrong. B, constantly, even when it's not your fault. And C, when it's warranted, you reflect, then respond. Brian. Brian.
Okay, with all the crazy little traits that I've said already, I do apologize if I'm upset. Mine crazy usually just comes from like me not being heard, or like if I'm trying to say what the issue is and it's not being, received, that's whenever. But and even when I snap, I understand that me trying to communicate something still and not being received the way I would want it still is not like an excuse for me to snap, to scream, to art. So I do know whenever I'm messing up, but it's like, dude, I shouldn't have acted that way, shouldn't have reacted that way?
Yeah, but you did. So, that's just what it is. So you have to face that. Yeah, I mean, just reacting to that, when we all do those things, and we all do at some point, that, then we have to face the consequences there. So
And
good for you.
I don't know if this is just growing up, but I'm whenever I do mess up in situations like that, I take note of it more now, and I'm like, I just don't want to be like that. I don't want to react like that. I don't want to be in public screaming or yelling at somebody, either.
Yeah,
So,
I do see that. Um, okay. Yes, good. And what about you, Tony? How often do you apologize? Rarely, constantly, or when it's warranted, you reflect and
I'm never
respond.
wrong, so
So
uh,
you're rarely.
no, I'm actually C. If I know I did something wrong, I usually apologize, even if I don't want to. Sometimes I will apologize. Yes.
So I this one I was like, oh, I'm more of a C. I definitely apologize when it's warranted, when I see that it's warranted. But I understand B, someone who apologizes constantly, even when it's not their fault. And I'll just be a little bit self-disclosing that when I was young and I was punished, quite severely and sometimes for no reason that I could see. I didn't see it coming. Sometimes punishments just came randomly. That I learned to say I'm sorry because I could head off the punishment sometime. And when I was a little kid, that's sort of how I operated. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The minute somebody was angry, you know? And even when I had no idea what the upset was about. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had that experience. I think people who are in adult abusive relationships end up doing that too. And the people who are the abusers feel so self-righteous. They're the ones who are not apologizing. Except what they may do is first say that, first not apologize, punish, do that. And then eventually they can go, I'm sorry, baby. You shouldn't have made me do that. Or, I'm just really, I love you so much. I would have never done that. Um, but, maybe you shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. They often bring it back around to the other person and make it their fault still.
And kids that have grown up like in those situations, do you think they usually go into relationships that will treat them the same way?
Not always, but that can happen. Yeah. People don't always repeat their patterns. And it's sort of like there's a saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Um, and it's the same for relationships or family. You may not get into a relationship that is a repeat of your parents or their relationship. You may not at all, but you will see rhyme within the relationship. You will see things that will start to, make your ears perk up. So, Tony, did we do you? Yes, we did. Good for you.
We did.
Good. I see my mind, my mind is not controllable. It's just all over the place. Number 5, and that's the last one. Do you ever feel like everyone else is the problem? A, yep, people are exhausting. B, sometimes, but maybe it's me too. And C, occasionally, but I try to own my role. So, Brian,
I picked A.
you picked A. People are exhausting.
And annoying and irritating.
He looked right at me with,
Say that faster. No. I mean, the general public can be irritating sometimes. I just feel like in a society where it's like people chew up their own butt, it's kind of like in consideration, And for me, that just, that it irks the last nerve, when people are inconsiderate. So a lot of the public, is just that. So for me, that's A.
how about you, Tony? Do you
Uh,
ever feel like everyone else is the problem?
yes, I picked
Yeah.
A, B, and C, but I do. The older I've gotten, the more I'm choosy on who I bring into my life. So because people are exhausting, but I do, if I am the problem, or if I feel like that I've contributed to something, I will own up to it.
Good. The word everyone is what tripped me. I couldn't own because sometimes I do feel like other people are the problem. So I for B was could have been my answer if it wasn't everyone else. Um and I don't get into the I hate everyone role, but sometimes I get into the a lot of people are rubbed the wrong way. Okay, so I occasionally go there, but I try to own my own role. So really, I was a C, but I would say sometimes I'm in a much more, I don't want to talk to anyone place because they're all bugging me,
Yeah. Especially now.
especially now. So let's diagnose ourselves, gents. If you were, what's your toxicity level? If you were mostly A's in here, no.
I mean,
Partly A's,
partial.
Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, partly A's. Certified chaos, you might be the main character in your own drama series. It's not too late and self-awareness is your plot twist. So the more you know yourself, it will change this narrative. So that's good.
Yeah. I try to just exit stage left as soon as I feel any crazy coming up. So I'm
Good for
working
you.
on it.
Good for you. Mostly B's. Tony, is that you or are you
I
more?
had a mixture of like 1A and mostly C's, with a tendency could have been B on number 5.
Yeah, it's interesting. So B's, I wanted to say that would be me more, but I think it's me in grief, because I had 3 B's that I'm like, well, that's just sort of what I am right now. And this says mostly B's, emotional whirlwind. You're not toxic. You're just tangled in your own emotional responses. Therapy, mindfulness, time can help. I know time will help for me.
What great advice.
I know. I'm all about giving it time, even though I'm a little impatient. But mostly, Tony, sounds like you're a C person, and I am too. And it wasn't without a lot of work. I mean, we got to the place we did. Emotionally accountable. We're emotionally accountable. We're doing the work, owning our mess, and trying to grow. And if you got a C, keep it up. Maybe share this quiz with a friend who needs it. That would be good. Actually, I put this quiz into the handout. So you can go to our handout, go to youtube.com/Dr. Greg, and then print out the handout, and it will have this quiz as well as all the tips to make things better. So Brian, I have a listener style questions. We already have eaten up so much time. We don't have much time. So let's do at least a couple. Pick the ones you want.
Oh, okay. The first one is I cut people off the moment they disappoint me. Am I protecting myself or just emotionally immature? And that sounds like me a little. So,
I think it is a form of protection, number one. So I think yes. Is it emotionally immature? Yeah, that can be. So it doesn't mean just because we're emotionally immature doesn't mean we're not protecting ourselves. And just because we're protecting ourselves doesn't mean we're emotionally immature. So this is a hard question to answer, because you could be either one and it doesn't really mean. I would have to know this person is saying, I cut people off when?
when they disappoint them.
Okay, so the moment they disappoint them, isn't that what I heard you say? Okay, so they cut people off the moment they disappoint them, and that probably is too early. Um, but that's a protection mechanism that we usually develop when we're very young, that maybe we need to reassess, try to give some people a chance, but realize it is protective. When that is activated, that's going to be your natural response. So you can then assess at that point what you want to do. Like, do I want to talk to about this with this person, which is often a good response, or did I just get a red flag warning that helps me to see I don't want to be around this person? But no matter what, in that moment, it is protective. It just may not always be warranted.
Okay.
So
I like that. I'm going to take that advice.
we need to be compassionate toward ourselves. We're often doing bad things for good reasons. And when I don't say good reasons to other people, good reasons in our own head.
Our own protection.
And it might be our own protection. That's the number one reason we do certain bad things. So it may not always be good, but it is something we can point to.
Gotcha. I'm going to remember that next time I'm upset. Okay, the next one. My partner says I gaslight them, but I feel like I'm just defending myself. How do you know the difference, or how do I know the difference?
So gaslight and defending myself don't seem to go hand in hand to me. So I have to say, is this person, I think they might be using the word gaslight wrong. Gaslight to me is when you purposely try to drive someone crazy. It's when you're basically trying to deny reality, not just lie, but get them to believe their perception of reality is wrong.
Okay. I have an example.
That's not a lie. It's actually bigger. Yeah.
So
That's
like
an example.
say I get into it with my boyfriend or something, right? And I'm upset because we're out and something happens, and I'm like telling him that something happened, and he's like, "That's not what it is. Like, we're just friends." Like, I can see where this person can be like, "Oh, are they gaslighting me?" When they're like, say you bring up an issue like, "Oh, hey, I saw you all over this person or whatever. Like, what the hell, you know?" And then they're like, "But they're just my friend. Like, that's just how we play. Like, nothing's going on there." But it's like,
Oh, this is
not.
what your boyfriend said?
No, I'm just saying, like, with what, like, this is like a good example of like laying it out, like, and then you're like, it's not even the point of like what you guys are if you guys are friends, but it's like it's disrespecting me, and I'm trying to tell you the problem, and then they're all like, but that's not what it is. You get me? Is that like the gaslighting, or
It could be. I mean, that's
or is that their form of defending? But it seems
one.
like
It's invalidating to you.
okay.
I mean, if you're the person on the other end saying, "I saw that and it really upset me," and they're like, "Oh, that shouldn't upset you. That's not the da da da." If they are gaslighting you, it could be that they are trying to have their cake and eat it too. Um, I mean, I hate to use political examples, but it's very timely with that. crime has been going down across the United States and the crime has been going down in Washington, D.C. And yet the president said crime is up and made his big deal and put out the National Guard. It's his privilege to do that. But I mean, yeah, there's crime. There's always crime. And homelessness to me is not crime, but I guess some people view it that way. But people, don't like things. Older people often feel quite vulnerable, so they have a different perception of the world. So he may feel more fear in Washington, D.C. But the reality is, you know, something's going right already, and yet they're saying there's this horrible outbreak of crime. And we saw it here in LA when they kept saying the city was on fire, and we're all walking around going, where? There's all this stuff where like actually things have gotten much better in the last few years. It's really improved dramatically, which is nice. So we can keep asserting a reality that isn't the case, and that's gaslighting. That's gaslighting. And what it does is it, number one, invalidates us. And then number two, it causes us to feel like our perceptions are wrong, which can then cause us to feel depressed, like we can feel hopeless or helpless, like we can't do anything, can feel anxious because we're not really able to assess the environment. Can cause us to feel anger because we feel like we need an enemy now. I mean, gaslighting can have a very profound effect. And I'm picking next. It's kind of a one in the news that everyone's sort of seeing, but that to me is gaslighting. If the person though is saying to his partner that he gaslights him, there's something wrong. He's either lying to his partner, and that because a lot of people use the word gaslight for lie, because you have to lie to gaslight. It's part of it. It's just that it's not rising to try to deny reality over and over. Um, so like in the relationship example, it could be that, I don't know. It could be something crazy. Is like, you're not seeing me having an affair with this person. That could be. And then they could be like, look, I saw blah, blah, blah. And they could say, no, that wasn't me. No. And that's a lie, but you're also venturing into gaslighting at that point.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to go to the next one, okay?
Yeah.
People say I'm too blunt. I say I'm just honest. Am I being toxic or are they too sensitive?
If people say it, it's true. It doesn't matter what you think at that point. That's how they're perceiving it. And it doesn't blunt is a relative term because not everybody will perceive that person as blunt. But that may mean there's a tinge of negativity because there are lots of people who say very clear things, very concise things, and they say it in a nice way. And that doesn't cause people to give them the feedback that they're too blunt. So if I was getting that feedback, I would pay attention and not blame them unless it's happening only with one person. I would start to wonder about my own behavior at that point.
Okay, so I have another
Yeah.
kind of example. I have a friend that this has been kind of like an ongoing issue, and he's like trying to figure out what it is about him or like what he can do to not have this situation be the situation. I've seen it firsthand, and I call it like just too intense, especially if it's somebody you don't know. I'm like, I don't know if it's like people skills or like learning how to make friends skills that he's just not all there with them. That it's like sometimes it just comes a little too intense. Like, I get it, like you joke around like that, but it's like, especially with like people you were just meeting, I wouldn't just go off the back and just joke around the way I usually do with my friends, you know? That I feel like this is kind of the same thing because he is fun and really nice and everything, but the way he says certain things to like strangers or like trying to make friends when we're out and about, it can be really off-putting.
Well, then if it's off-putting, it's off-putting. Probably the biggest red flag, I think isn't that part of this question? The person said, I'm just being honest. I hear that flag over and over again from people. Um, And that to me is a red flag when they say, I'm just being honest. Because if you can be honest with tact
Yeah.
and you can be honest with sensitivity. If you're just being honest to destroy somebody and then not taking responsibility for your honesty, or you're not being at all sensitive, you know, like an example. This is examples that I've heard about in my position. It's like a husband and wife going to a party and the wife making fun of the husband in a group gathering and humiliating him, like letting on some piece of information that is humiliating to the group.
Mm.
It was honest. That was her contention, but it was cruel. So that was actually something we talked about is there is a relationship destroying behavior. I mean, it was a big deal. But to say that honesty is something we need to be a little bit wary of, because my perception of what is and your perception of what is sometimes is a little different. But if you have a perception that you can actually find a way to communicate that sensitively with the other person.
Okay.
So
Do you think this person, like, how would this person, like, work on that part, of just being tactful when they're having
well,
conversation?
they need to get feedback from people and to say, yes, this is a problem. And if they refuse to take responsibility, they're never going to change. So that's why we harp on that, it's good that when you realize that it's you, because then you actually have room to change. If somebody doesn't take responsibility for their own behavior, they're stuck. Period. Period. I mean, there's just no place for them to go. Maybe we can shape it out of them in the environment, maybe. But if they're not going to take responsibility, they're just not. And an example might be doing a crime, and then people know they did the crime, but they are all kinds of justifications, and they feel like they're right to have done that crime, et cetera, et cetera. And then they get put in jail. They may not repeat that crime after they get out because they don't want to go back to jail. That's sort of the lowest level right there. They just want to avoid punishment. So that they're taking some external feedback, but it's not because they took responsibility.
Gotcha. Like for my friend, because he's asked like this, like, what is it? The only thing I could say was for him to be overly nice. The way he's approaching people or communicating with people, it's not like hitting or landing well. That I've just kind of said, maybe if you just try being overly nice instead. I don't know if that would work.
That's actually quite good advice. So, one, I often give people the advice to act as if. So act like somebody who's very tactful.
Mm.
Act like somebody you've seen that you really like their behavior and see how they handle conflict. So act as if. Act as if you're that person. Be an actor on a stage and just pretend. Because what that actually does is it creatively helps them to get in touch with behaviors, and they'll think about them and then actually execute them, and they actually start to learn from that process. So that's very good advice. Also, when we sometimes doing the opposite, which is what you're advising. So, like when we want to say something really negative to our partner, but instead we give them a kiss, that'll be good advice for you, Tony. So when you want to say something negative, but you just go up and give them a kiss, that acting at the opposite will actually help improve things and keeps you from engaging in the toxic behavior. But you realize you have to recognize, this is not good. So that's why you have to take responsibility.
Okay.
So it's good advice you gave.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. I constantly cancel plans last minute because I'm overwhelmed, but now no one invites me out. Am I the problem?
Well, what's the problem there? You don't have to go to any more plans. Um,
No, I mean, I get it. I'm fine, but
look, I realized this happening. I realized this happening when I was a kid, when I was in school. And Brian's having to step out, so I'm going to talk to you, Tony. So I realized this happening when I was in school and I was so busy, I had to cancel things constantly. And I had a little time optimism disorder. I would constantly tell people, "Oh yeah, I would love to do that because I love to do things." But then the night would roll around, I needed to study or write a paper. I was super exhausted and I had to cancel. And what that caused me to do was to start to learn to not cancel things. I mean, to not engage in things, say yes to things if I had to cancel. And it was really profound for me because I agreed to go see Jesus Christ Superstar here at the Hollywood Bowl with a friend of mine. And, a whole group of people. And I was too fresh off the grief with my brother. And I just didn't I was so concerned about my own behavior, that I would be around all these strangers and not be acting well or be, mopey or be crying or I didn't know. Honestly, didn't know. And this was a really big event. This had Cynthia Erivo was Jesus Christ. She played Jesus Christ. And um, Adam Lambert and a bunch of stars were in this. It was like a huge, huge event. Um, and I had to cancel. And my friend was so understanding, like incredibly understanding. So, I that's just something I would say was I the problem? In that moment I was. But do I do that as a pattern? Absolutely not. And I think that's the key is if you are doing this as a pattern, of course no one's going to invite you out because that's what they expect. They expect you to reject them every time.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, for the next question.
Oh, do we have time?
Yeah, I think we'll do one more.
Okay.
I always need to be right, even in therapy. Is that toxic or just a personality quirk?
Oh, wow. You know what? I never feel the need to be right in therapy. Isn't that wild? I mean, when I
Well,
do
for
therapy with
you as a
people, I
therapist.
never feel the need. If they want to hold on to their being right, I'll point out things. I'll do, but I don't need to engage in a power struggle with them. What I would do if that person is always needing to be right, I'd be like, what are we doing here? I'd have to figure out what's going on in this particular circumstance. What happens in therapy, though, is people will start to craft their story and leave out things. Sometimes my biggest peeve in therapy is when, like, let's say 6 months later, you're working and you're not kind of getting anywhere, and some things are happening, and then they let out a piece of information that is so key and so important. You're like, wait a minute, this changes everything. This has happened to me several times. Not several, but enough. Enough that it was just really stuck in my mind. And then you say that, and then the person says, I said, oh, what has, kept you from bringing that up until now? And they'll often, this is the answer that bugs me. It's not that they kept it, because sometimes people need to feel trust to be able to tell you things. So that to me is perfectly understandable, 100%. But they'll say to me, because I didn't think you needed to know. Like they're holding back information because they're only going to give me what I need, what they believe I need to know. And I'm like, well, that was actually really important information.
Because that could have helped them out a long time ago.
It could have. But, you know, maybe part of it was that they were feeling safe enough to be able to say that thing, whatever it was, but not, but the fact is that, they took a long time to get there, and that's fine if that's what their process is. People, when I deal with people with trauma who've been through some really terrible, terrible things, I mean, really just not great things, I often will give the analogy that I'll be like a driver's ed instructor here, that I'm going to guide you, but you have your hand on the wheel and you have your foot on the gas. And I'm not going to take you someplace that you are not agreeing to go. Like I can say, let's turn here, let's talk, let's da-da-da, stop, etc. But ultimately, I want them to feel the control. And that really helps.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, the client does have the control of it all. Like they're the ones who choose if they want to get better or progress or stand still or, where the road goes.
But a lot of people misperceive therapy and think a therapist is there to just tell the client what to do, like, browbeat them into submission. And that is not the case.
It's funny because with my therapist, I don't think he's ever told me what to do ever.
Well,
Like not in like
yeah,
a,
yeah,
bad way, but it's like we just talk in that sense.
good. And it probably comes out through that process. Okay, well, how do you help yourself if you realize that you're the toxic one? You were basically all A's on that quiz. Number one, don't spiral. Get curious. Remember to ask yourself, when I act like this, what was triggering it? So get curious. Don't worry, that's happening. Number two, own it without over apologizing. We talked about that over apologizing. Take responsibility. But if you're one of these people or you hear this, boy, this bugs me, that says, I'm the worst person ever, I'm terrible, I'm awful, that is a BS, self centered defensiveness mechanism. I have a family member who does this. And when he comes close to an apology by saying, "Oh yeah, well I'm the worst person. I'm terrible. I'm awful." I mean, he's not even sincere when he says it. But some people actually they might get sincere, but it's a form of defensiveness and you really have to step back and ask them to own their behavior, and that's the case for us too.
And when they're doing that whole blaming themselves and saying they're the worst and they're the problem and everything, is that for them to want you to be like, no, you're not?
Yes, that's exactly it. That's it, Brian. Yeah. They want to somehow be like taken away so that they're not, cuz no one is the worst person. No one. I mean, at what point do we? Yeah, there are bad people, but we can't go around. How are we going to rank these people? There are how many billions of people? I mean, we can't rank them.
If we just go through history. No, I'm playing.
Whatever. Yeah. So number three, get feedback from safe people. Choose friends, family, therapists, and who can be honest and constructive. I think it's very important. No enablers or those yes men, people who kiss your butt, not good. And no haters, the people who just always have something negative to say, not good. You got to be around a person who will carefully consider their words and give you feedback when you ask for it directly. Don't expect them to give you feedback until you ask for it directly. And then that's a good person. Number four, learn from your emotional patterns. Um, journaling's a good way to do this, writing down. I often have people even do these things called thought records, and they're extremely helpful for analyzing any kind of issue, and we can really get to the nut of the problem. But you can really decide whether you're defensive, avoidant, you need control, and that remember the patterns are actually fixable, but you need to see them clearly. Number five, hit pause before reacting. One of my favorite pieces of advice. Count to 10, take a deep breath, even say, I need a minute before I respond. This keeps the heat from becoming a fire. Number six, build better coping tools. Replace toxic habits like silent treatment, gaslighting, drama escalation with healthier ones. Clear communication, boundaries, and humor. Humor's a good one. That's a tough one, but for a lot of people, but it's a good one. Self-deprecating humor can be especially helpful in like diffusing situations. 7, get professional backup. That's therapy. 8, track your progress. Notice small wins. That's the most important. Like every little millimeter of progress is to be celebrated. Period. That way you'll actually get there. Quicker apologies, more mutual respect, fewer blowups. Even if you have blowups, don't focus on the problem, focus on the progress. And 9, remember, toxic is a behavior. It's not your identity. You're not a toxic person. You're actually a person who may do some toxic things. And then if you separate that out, you're going to be able to change who you are.
Wait, but are there toxic people?
Well, I would actually hold that no one's truly a toxic person. They're just people who do a lot of toxic things. And those might be people I would avoid.
Okay.
Okay, so Is it you? If this episode made you squirm a little, congratulations. That's growth knocking. Toxicity isn't a life sentence. It's just a sign. It's time to get honest and to fix yourself. And thanks for listening, because we hope you really enjoyed it. If you loved us, leave us a review. If you hated it, well, maybe that's a little toxic too. So don't forget to rate, review, and follow Off the Couch with Dr. Greg on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. Links to the studies on the YouTube page at youtube.com/Dr. Greg, including that handout I talked about with all the tips and tricks and the quiz. Hit me up on the socials at Ask Dr. Greg. Until next time, this is Brian, Tony, and Dr. Greg bidding you farewell. Be present, be flexible, and be kind.